So for my film critique, I'll be analyzing Robert Luptic's Legally Blonde through the feminist and psychoanalytical lens. For a quick background about the movie, Legally Blonde is a 2001 American romantic comedy based on the true life story of Amanda Brown, the author of Legally Blonde, and her experiences while attending Stanford Law School as a fashion and makeup-loving blonde. A quick introduction to Elle Woods. Elle is portrayed as a really bubbly, kind, and positive person who always overlooks the bad in people and approaches them in a nice manner no matter how they treat her. Although she is courageous and can stand up for herself, kindness is one of the main virtues for Elle. She is beauty and brain smart and extremely hardworking, along with always being up for a challenge. Therefore, the definition of quitting is definitely not in the books for Elle Woods. So, a quick plot summary. Legally Blonde follows the empowering story of Elle Woods, a fashionable sorority girl who is determined to be a lawyer and go to law school as her way of winning back her ex-boyfriend Warner, who broke up with her due to her unseriousness. After successfully entering Harvard, Elle has multiple people taunting her, yet regardless, she studies hard and wins a difficult internship. Despite people's ridicule about her and being downgraded by her professor, Elle proves herself as worthy when she takes up a murder trial and successfully wins it, and eventually graduates from Harvard Law as a class role model. So I'll start with first analyzing it through the feminist lens. For the first quote, 1:14:53, knowing exactly what you want and how far you'll go to get it. How far will Elle go? Are you hitting on me? You're a beautiful girl. So everything you said was just, I'm a man who knows what he wants. In the first quote, we can see how Elle's professor sexualizes her and expects her to give in her body in order to get a summer associate's job. This ends up being the falling action as he indirectly suggests she sleep with him to be able to attain the summer job. When Elle confronts him, he innocently says that she's a beautiful girl, justifying that his actions are purely because she's beautiful and making her believe that her beauty deserved her to get hit on. This shows us how easily women are manipulated, objectified, and used for their bodies in our society. Although she had astonishing lawyer skills in her, they got completely overlooked and she got sexually hit on, reasoned over by her beauty. Many would expect that if someone was to overhear the conversation between Elle and her professor, they'd support her, right? But quite literally the opposite happened. The second quote shows 1:15:57, well, maybe you should sleep with the jury too. That way we can win our case. This is said by a fellow classmate after overhearing the professor hit on her. Elle is immediately accused of sleeping with her professor by her fellow classmate in order to win the spot of an internship. And they also taunt her by suggesting that she sleep with the jury too in order to win the case as well. This shows the stereotype of women being downgraded and looked down upon. Most of the time, even in our society nowadays, when women especially come out and talk about their sexual assaults and rapes, people believe that they're liars or simply saying it for the sake of attention. Although Elle was able to beat this falling action and come to a resolution when a few people that were taking up the case with her defended her, it's still really upsetting to know that without people backing her up, she was called derogatory remarks. For the third quote, 1:17:13. What's the point of staying Paulette? All people see when they look at me is blonde hair and big boobs. No one's ever going to take me seriously. In this quote, we can see a clear understanding of the feminist lens. Elle's blonde hair and bubbly personality overall caused a huge conflict for her throughout the entire movie. When almost quitting Harvard, Elle talks about how people see her as unserious, purely because she is a blonde, fashionable girl who puts her looks and fashion over everything and because of her body. This shows the stereotype that blondes are dumb, and once again she's aware that she's constantly sexualized because of her looks. Throughout the entire movie, Elle struggles to show her importance due to multiple people not taking her seriously because of her cheery attitude and blonde hair. When she first came to Harvard, she was called a Malibu Barbie and told to go back to LA. The tone that they had said this quote in, Malibu Barbie, also showed how they were clearly taunting her when calling her that, stating that a school like Harvard is not the place for a blonde and fashionable girl. This is seen because oftentimes in our society, blonde hair girls are seen as feminine, fashionable, and pretty. But the bad part of this is that they aren't taken seriously in the workplace and professional places. The setting when she was called Malibu Barbie also showed how she was stereotyped by panning the camera at her hair and then her outfit, along with the people around her and their shocked faces and giggles when looking at her, visibly showing their judgment based on her looks. Moving on to the psychoanalytical lens. So, as we are aware, the author of Legally Blonde was originally a Stanford law student who based her novel on her struggles at Stanford and her struggles with being a blonde who was extremely interested in fashion. 3732. Oh, okay, I'll just leave then. I think this quote foreshadows when in an interview, Amanda Brown states that she felt like a fish out of water at Stanford law due to her bubbly personality and the way she was judged for being blonde and being obsessed with fashion. Closely, Elle also feels out of place and thinks multiple times throughout the entire movie that she should just quit and leave and go back to LA because of the constant judgment around her. I think this clearly shows the motivation behind Legally Blonde, which is the author's first-hand experience in a male-dominated career. Another moment of foreshadowing Amanda Brown in Elle Woods was seen in The Lifestyle of Elle Woods. In an article, it is seen that Amanda Brown had one of the best houses at a hilltop on the best block of Russian Hill, which meant that she clearly didn't financially need to go to Stanford Law, as she was already from a really wealthy family and could have carried on with her life without a hefty degree. Similarly, Elle Woods is also portrayed as a really rich girl from a really wealthy family who doesn't need to go to law school, especially for the money that lawyers make, since she's already rich and financially stable. Clearly, that you can see in her house in LA, seen right here. The background clearly looks like one of the LA hilltops. But unfortunately, she doesn't live here due to her university and her pursuing her fashion major degree. She lives in a sorority house, which, as we all also know, are really pricey to afford. I think that these similarities show a piece of the author's personality and how she portrayed a piece of herself in this film. So that's the end of my analyzing both of these lenses, and personally I think that these two lenses, feminist and psychoanalytical, really connected with Legally Blonde. This movie was visually portrayed really well, and if you look at it through both of these lenses, it was portrayed perfectly. The feminist theory was very largely portrayed throughout the entire movie, and she did beat a lot of stereotypes by winning a murder case as a girl who they were taking really unserious. She won it as her first year at Harvard. She was a first year student at Harvard, and she won that case. She also was seen as really powerful throughout the entire movie, and even near the end we could see that she graduated as the top student and role model out of her entire batch of the class of 2004. I'm sorry. That's it for my analyzing, and thank you.